Okay, we want to start the session now with HolyDocker session 3. Okay, you wasn't you wasn't in the last sessions. You weren't in the volume and image concept and container concepts. And
I'm an aficionado.
on the session 2.
Session 2, session 1, also session 0, also.
You were here. It was a private session.
Film me all over the Docker.
Docker compose.
Docker up, Docker down.
Yeah, okay.
Very good.
Here in this session, we are going to talk about network concepts, but I realized that if I talk less about the concepts and go through the commands and just play with commands, it would be better for you guys. And I think you like it much. So yeah.
As you said, we love
Yeah, that's just a start with the Docker network. Docker's networking subsystem is pluggable. What does that mean? It means if you have a container, you can attach any network to it. You can unplug and plug and do everything with its network. Because the container itself don't know about the underseen, the network and those things. It just use the IP address or MAC address or anything which is served there. So yeah, if we take a brief look into the Docker infrastructure or the whole Docker itself, including engine, network, volume, and those stuff in this network part, we see there is a network infrastructure, which is our network drive in laptop, server, or everything. Or even it could be a VM, which is attached to a virtual network or something. And we have on IPAM driver and network driver, and then Docker engine on top. So what is IPAM or network driver? We know something about network driver, or if I say IPAM is IP address management, then you would probably guess what is the responsibility. But before I start with those, I want to say about the container network model, CNM, and the container network interface. These two concepts is important. CNM, let me. Okay. CNM is a interface for both IPAM and network plugins. The IPAM plugins APIs can be used to create, delete networks, address pools, and allocate or deallocate IP address to the containers. The CNI is just a simple, not simple, but it's just an interface for adding or removing a container from a network. And we have CNI plugins also, which provide us with different features. For example, you have routing You have virtual Ethernet devices and bridges, assigning IPs and those stuff, which is included in those plugins and depends on the plugin itself. It controls everything about this stuff. So yes, this is CNM and CNI, which usually come together. We have different CNI plugins, which we will look at it. But before I go there, or maybe yes, let's just go there and I will explain it later. CNI plugins. There are different plugins which you can install on your Docker host, but the 6 default networking drivers is bridge, host, overlay, MAC VLAN, null, and IP VLAN, which is installed by default, and we want to see what are those and what is the use cases. But before I start, I want to ask you a question. You know me, I always ask questions. I always ask my questions. Do you know how can I see the plugins in Docker? How can I check which plugins are installed?
Is there some Docker plugin or similar command? No.
No. For default, no.
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, yes. Again, I skip. But okay. We have a command in Docker system info, which prints everything about the Docker itself. And if you execute it in some part,
Yeah.
yes,
Find plugins. Yeah.
where?
There, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You are hovering.
This? No,
No.
this is client part.
Yeah.
We are on the server.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We can see plugins here. Yes. We have different plugins for volume, provide different things, for example, NFS range, not range. Get for SMB or those stuff you need plugins. And for network, yeah, these are the defaults. As you can see, the bridge host, ID VLAN, MAC VLAN, non overlay, and you can install if you want, which in most cases you don't even care about plugins. You just want to use it. But we have the plugin command also. Oh, the Docker is. But what is it? It's create, disable, enable. But if you plug in ls, you don't see anything because you didn't install anything. Those plugins installed by default, but here it's what you installed. Just show what you installed. Yeah. Okay. So we have different plugins. The bridge, which is the default network driver. What does mean bridge? Except anyone can answer.
I mean, it's there, but the bridge, it kind of, even the name kind of gives it away.
Kind of what?
Kind of give it away because I'm seeing multiple containers that needs to communicate on the same host. So
Okay,
has to be-
what does it does the bridge mean? How it works? Yeah.
how it works. That's
When you bridge your network driver, what happened?
Contains
We don't do that. We just use bridge on container on Docker.
bridge. As far as I know that in the network means that already you want to connect to another place, but if you have a breach between this and that, first you're gonna connect to that breach, and via that breach you're going to connect to the last endpoint that you want to do, something like this. It means that you're not going to connect to the endpoint or the target directly.
It could be something like that, but specifically, I will show you here. For example, this is our network driver. Let's say ND. And this is the internet connection you plugged in or edited. And you are in Windows or in Linux or a VM, doesn't matter really. When you bridge it, you create two sites in your network driver. And each of those connected to the network, but they have different MAC address. Probably you know the MAC address. So it's at each time I remember something that I want to say and just skip it to go further and reach these interesting points. But for the network driver itself has a MAC address, but when you do that, there is a different MAC address, and the connections is usually based on the MAC address. Until it's not on the TCP layer, it's based on the MAC address. And find your computer or something with the MAC address. How, for example, how DHCP for the first time give you the IP address by the MAC address. You have a MAC address there.
I remember in Windows 95, 10 years ago, something like this, there was a one option that you could create a breach. That breach exactly is the same, means that they work exactly that as the same. Yes. I don't know that. Can you remember that there was an icon that you could create a breach for yourself when we want to have an internet? I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yes.
Maybe just quick question on the two circle you did. Were they two separate containers? The one that you in the network driver?
Network driver.
What were they?
The fact is, it creates two virtual network driver.
We had one before then.
You have the network driver,
Yes.
and when you breach, it creates two network.
And each virtual network driver is
MAC
connected
address.
to one container?
It can be, but it's the concept of bridge itself. Now we don't care about the container. I just told you about the bridge itself, not the container.
Just for myself to understand exactly why are we creating then those virtual network drivers?
Okay, let me find a picture.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better.
By the way, if you search for the Windows 10, also you can create breach connection. Believe me, I'm not lying. You can.
Ja, collaborator. I was also thinking that you said Windows 95, and you said 10 years ago or so. So
Yeah.
so that's 10 years ago.
Okay, so. Okay, I'm just. Yeah, I'm very old guy. That yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all good. My voice is already on YouTube. I heard
Yeah.
it the first. lesson, but my face is not there, so it's fine.
It's me.
Alright.
And also
Yeah,
give
yeah.
your phone
What's here,
number.
for example? We have a breach here in the host. Oh, you can see it. Okay. We have a breach in the host, and as you can see, two virtual network connected to it. And these two networks connected to another, it's another namespace, but you can have a virtual machine, you can have a container or something.
Okay, so it's
Just imagine this 1 and 2 is two virtual machine.
no, got it. So you explained it outside of Docker, but in the Docker world, then we're talking about the container there,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. In the Docker world, when you have breach, you can attach it to different containers.
Sure.
When you attach it to different containers, they can talk to each other through this breach.
Yeah.
So the default network driver is breach. So if you create a container and if you don't touch anything, the network is usually breach. And I can show you here if I do Docker network ls, you will see different thing, but system. Let me remove everything because I want a clean Docker environment. It was the last one. Okay, there are because they are okay, doesn't matter. If you have a cleaned Docker, you just only see this breach, the host network, and none. And if you create a container, usually, and you don't uh, specify to use which network, it connect to this bridge. The important thing about the bridge is you can use this the default bridge which belong to Docker itself, and you can have your own bridge. You can create your own bridge. What is the differences? The difference is when you attach your container to this bridge, which belong to Docker host, they cannot talk to each other with their host name. But if you create your own bridge and you connect those, they cannot. They can. We will. Okay, I will do that later. Just as explanation. Bear in mind that. Okay, we have host. What does that mean? It means remove. Simply use the host network itself. For example, you have a Docker container and you attach it to host. And if it's Nginx and you publish the port 80, on your host, port 80 will be published. As you should now know, you can have multiple containers with port 80. Yes. But if you uh, attach those to host network, you can't, because there is one only port in your host, which is 80. So yes, that is a difference. What is the use cases? It's performance optimization. Sometimes you need it. Sometimes because you are removing a layer. you are removing the bridge layer, the nuts or something. So if you connect exactly to the host with your container, it's better from performance perspective. Overlay, the overlay networks, it's only for Docker Swarm. Connect not only Docker Swarm, but connect Docker daemons together, which only used for Docker Swarm nowadays. And I don't know which companies using Docker Swarm. I don't think they are much. It's do you know Docker Swarm?
No.
It's
Told me today, I know what is it.
what is
It
it?
works like a Kubernetes. You can have
Orchestration.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
orchestration layer.
Yeah, yeah.
And those
It's a simple,
believe me. Also, I didn't know that about.
yeah, simple layer for orchestration. It's a simplified Kubernetes version.
Yeah, it's a kind of
It's
No, no.
really less features.
What's the difference with a Docker Compose actually?
Docker Compose
The-
is a, sorry, it's your.
No, 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 no.
It's a definition of your container.
Yes.
Instead of going and write Docker commands to create your container, configure network part, you will write in human readable way everything in the YAML, and then the Docker daemon toolkit can create all the resources for which you define in that Docker Compose file. There's no difference.
Okay.
But Docker Swarm, for example, you can specify how many replication do you want from your Nginx, and it will replicate it through the other nodes.
Imagine Kubernetes doesn't have manifest, and you need to write commands to create everything. But Kubernetes had it from first place. See? It's a small Kubernetes.
Yeah, actually, it removes the need to do OS level routing for those stuff, which we don't care here. We have IPv LAN. You have total control over IPv4, IPv6, and it's really more flexible in configuration, efficient. You can control anything in routing, and yeah, if you want those things, you probably need to have these plugins and attach it. You have it. You should attach it to your container. And Mac VLAN assign a MAC address to a container. Some legacy systems, some legacy applications need to be like
They need to layer to connection.
yeah, they need to layer 2 connection, and they might be some situation that you want these container as a separate device in your network. So you use the MAC address.
No, don't go.
And yeah, and null, we have null breach, which is nothing. Actually, it's completely isolated container from anywhere. You don't have any connection.
Do we have a use case for it?
Sometimes it depends, yeah.
Can you
For
like give
example,
an example?
you have a you have a container which you need to process something in it, and it doesn't need to be connected to anywhere. So you do the process and make a file and just copy the file through the volume, and another container can use it in from that volume.
Yeah.
For example,
Or
we
in Bank
using
or something.
an application which we haven't buy it, the license for it, and we don't want to that application connected anywhere.
Sure.
Or sometimes we use it as a sandbox, isolated environment to analyze the application. In these cases, we use
but then you cannot really interact with it, right? You
Yeah,
need
no,
to
no, we
dump
use it.
the log, for
No,
example, or
No,
something.
no, it's couldn't have
It's just a network.
network, but you can get access to the bash.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's just a network.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, when you want to analyze a virus, maybe you need to do this.
I thought it was completely isolated, so you couldn't really even.
It's a network.
So let's do just run containers. Ladies and gentlemen, here you are. Okay. If you want to run a container, why I say container, you you need to do it with the command line, okay, or with the Docker compose. Docker desktop, yeah, anything, but we usually use this command line tool. Yes, the Docker container run simply nginx. It gets the nginx image, different layers which we explained, and just run it. So when you run it, you by default attach to it. If you want to run nginx as a daemon, you put -d and it will goes on background. So if you do Docker PS, you will see the nginx, but let me just start some containers. Okay, so you now see the nginx open running. The port is 80. Okay, can I connect to it? Yes.
So in bridge mode, right?
No, no, you cannot.
Why?
You haven't mapped to the external network.
Okay, how can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. What you see here as a port 80 on the ports field, it's just say it is there. You can use it. And I will tell you in a Docker file where does it come from. But for now, if you want to just publish the port, you need another option -p. So let me just remove the nginx current -f and this E4 C. And let me introduce another option --rm, which means if you stop the container, it will be removed automatically and you don't need to do it. And if I just remove -d and I run it, it will be attached. But if I do Control-C, it will be removed and I won't see it here or on the background. The nginx is for 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay, for the publish, with -p, port 80 to 80.
85.
So
85.
which one is for the container and which one for the host?
The first one is external. The second one is internal. Means that if you say that
Which
85.
one is for container? Which one for
the
host?
second one, the host is the first one.
Okay.
That's the second
Good.
one. So
Yes, that's
Okay.
true. That's true.
Outside. Means that when you call the 85, it switches to 80.
So if I actually say 85 to 80, it means 85 from host to 80 from container. And if
What?
huh?
Because the port is under 100. To have to the permission to do.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Already it says that 85 go to 80. Means that
It's on the host.
Yeah, it's works. Yes.
No, you are root. This is what-
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
It's because maybe someone else do it. If you want to, open and port under 100, under 1024, you should do it by root user.
I always root, so
Yes, I mentioned because maybe
You should be very root user if you're not a root user that you want to open a port under the 1024. Yes.
so
Just don't open doors.
if I just show the listening port on my host, you should see the port 85. Okay, and you will see it here,
From the municipality.
which means the port 85 from the host is connected to port 80. So if you have multiple network, for example, here I have only one, I think. No,
IPs. You have to do the IPv6 and IPv4 at the same time.
yes, but I want to say something else. For example, you have two IP address, and you just want to use one of them for this container. For example, you have a 1111 and you have 2222. Okay, you just you need to have this container on 1111. You publish it like that.
111.
Yeah.
85.
Yeah.
That's it.
1111. No. It's 85. It doesn't work.
Because
Why?
you don't have a 1111.
That's true. So this is the publishing. Okay, naming. You can give it a name with dash name. Otherwise, it will choose a random name. You can
If you don't put hard code the name, it will give some scientific spur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny names. Yeah.
You can assign an environment variable. For example, you want environment name, and it's you can put it there with -e, and if you have multiple, you have multiple -e. Okay. If you have different environment variables in one file, you can also specify the file, and it will be presented in the content as a variables. For example, here I create this file and with name Ali and category dash dash file. And we'll specify the file env in the container. It will be a sort. And we go through this container and execute bash. With this command, you attach to this container -i and with t, and you execute something. And if I check the env, which lists the environment variable, you will see the name and category here. Okay. Another option is restart. It means you specify some policy when it should be restarted. When there is a failure on a container, it shouldn't be restarted at all with no, or unless a stop. It means if I stopped the container manually, it shouldn't be restarted. It's kind of misleading, this unless stop to me. You mean dash dash restart unless stop?
Yeah. So unless you manually stop, then you should restart.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's true. Okay, you can specify the name with dash dash name to anything. You can add host. For example, you have a private network, and in this private network, for example, you have a Kafka, and they have a separate network. You want to call your Kafka with its hostname. You don't want called by the IP. You can add the host and call, for example, Kafka, and the IP is blah blah blah. And you can, yeah, just use the like etc hosts in the Linux. It just map the name to the IP address. And you can have this CID file, which means when you create a container, it's the Docker assign a ID to it, which is a hash. And you can store this hash as a ID to a file, which is with this option, you can do that. You can limit the CPUs. Yes.
For the
One, can I add something to the environment?
Yeah.
Because we did a few months ago, I have
Yeah, yeah.
experience with this. I have added my environment variable file, attached my environment to my container. But when my application tried to use this environment variable, it couldn't. And I deeply searched why it's happened. And I understood, okay, when we attach one env file or directly specific environment variable, it's attached to our bash. It means that it's right. It's like that you're writing this variable equal this value. But when the application tries to fetch those to get the value from the operating system, it's not available in the operating system. It's available in the bash environment. So what we do usually, we write this command, export this variable. If you want to do this in the container, you should add one command in your entry start of the script, set -a. It means that every variable which is imported to this container, it should be exported automatically to the entire operating system.
That's true. And yes, this is related to this Linux stuff.
Yes.
And yeah, you should know that when you to add something to it, when you, for example, execute even ls, it's executed in another bash. not in the same bash. Perhaps you didn't know that. So it means if you have an application and you want to start it like that, it will create another bash. It will execute the command there, anything, it might be a script or something. And then it will exit and show you the result or error or anything. So this means any environment you have, this current environment, it's not on that environment. But if you export the environment, you will see it on that environment too.
Yeah.
Another option is sourcing. If you source your commands or a script or anything, it will use the current bash to execute it. How do you do that? With source or with dot? Not here. Maybe it's because of this. I don't know. It's not a VM. It's a what is this? WSL2. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
it's Microsoft. Sorry. You know that if you sleep,
Yeah, it doesn't have source.
the clock is stopped and it's not updating the clock.
Okay.
And if you try to connect, after a while, you turn on your computer and check date time in your bash, you see it's not synced with your computer. And if you go and try to connect to an HTTPS service, you will face error.
Oh.
This is the WSL magics.
Does it refresh after a while?
No, you should
Doesn't think?
No, as it says, you should call the function manually to sync the time again.
Wow. If you put in standby your laptop,
Yes.
it's not considered a bug?
It's reported, but they haven't considered it as a bug. Sorry. It's true.
This is not
Yes.
good.
This stuff could happen with Microsoft, of course. And
You know, the bug is a deep bug because it's inside the hypervisor, Hyper-V, because actual WSL is a VM inside the Hyper-V. And the thing is, when you put your computer in the sleep mode, the Hyper-V will be asleep and it forget to update each all the VMs. And it means that this shit happens to all the VM in Hyper-V.
yeah. So yes, I will explain it later here, but let's see the entry point and CMD later, and also work directory. Okay, SHM size, which means shared memory size. For some applications, or yeah, for some applications, you need more memory. And it's separated from the container memory itself. It's a shared memory that applications store their data or their stuff in there. For example, Redis do that. And yeah, you can specify it here. And it depends on the application. And if you're using more than 64 megabytes, you should use more, because otherwise you would expect more less performance, and it would be a bottleneck. Okay, I won't go through the CPU sets, but here you can see a list of options. For example, CPUs, you can limit the maximum CPU per core which your container should use. The maximum memory for megabyte. The CPU shares, which doesn't matter at this level. Memory reservation. You can reserve memory for your container. For example, you need at least 100 megabytes or something. You can reserve it. We see.
The out of memory kill disable, how does it really works actually?
Uh, yeah, you ask question that is I don't want to explain, but I mean the out of memory disable. We do that because in some applications we don't want to be killed. So we do that to just let the OS know, okay, I know it's out of memory, but don't kill it. I can give it more memory and I can fix the issue there.
How does it actually work in the sense that if it's out of memory and you somehow say to whatever the container, I guess, please keep running, does it, how can it store, for example, the actual status of whatever the container was doing?
It's like kernel ring. It's like when your system hanged.
Yeah.
And after some seconds, it's okay. What happened there? Something resolved. Yeah. But it was working.
No, maybe, I don't know, maybe
It was in the
for a while until you.
it was on the it was on the line. There was a queue and the process and data were in a queue.
Oh, okay, I guess.
And yeah, there wasn't any memory to assign those tasks, to assign the
when
memory
it's
to
full,
those tasks.
It's not going to give a time slot to this process until you provide more memory resources.
Yeah, it can't.
Okay,
Can
so
like-
it's more like on not on the overall state level. I mean, what I have in mind and why I asked this, it's like for any Java
It's
application,
suspend
right?
the process.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thread that it's kind of
freeze something.
froze, exactly.
Yes,
Not the whole thing, you know, like
because maybe you need to you want to avoid restart to start
Yeah,
the process again.
but that's kind of so related. I'm thinking, for example, again, just personal experience when you have any VMs that is running, like a JVM application that it's running, if it goes out of memory,
You just
kills it, right? And so I was wondering how it's possible, to just leave it hanging as long as then you can fix it somehow, for example, by giving it more memory and say, okay, now continue.
For
You
example,
know what I mean?
you have
Yeah, the thing is, you should think about the nature of container. Each container is running only one process, not more.
Yeah.
So when one container resources is full, okay, I'm not
that
going
makes
to
sense.
assign a time slot in the CPU for this process anymore until this flag be removed.
yeah, and sometimes you just can't restart the container because there might be some valuable information there. For example, you have a database. You should gracefully do that, and you can't. So you add memory, and then you can. Yeah.
But one more thing, this limitation is not a container limitation, one process. It's a Docker limitation. Parent of Docker container is LXC. You can run as much as you want process in that there. And sometimes, actually, when you connect to the bash with your container and running commands, you are running new process there actually. But the nature of the Docker daemon, who takes control the Docker container and watching the container status, and actually it controls that specific main process one, process zero, process one in the container, not more, not other process.
I don't understand it.
Are you in the Docker your container?
No,
Go to one of the containers, please. Please run that connect. Run it as a detach, please. No detach. Please. Oh, okay. And please run PS args. No, PS args. Okay. PS a bit of that.
I don't have PS.
No, PS with a space.
PS command not found.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay. Can you run an Alpine?
And
Does it have? I think it's a minimum image. Okay. Oh, updates. Run PS. You see, you have process one. Please open another tab. In the host, right PSIs. You can find that process here. This one.
you will find it, yeah.
It's you see, yeah, it's the actual process number.
Yeah.
Okay, and the container daemon control the resources for
Yeah,
this
yeah,
process,
sure.
but you can have multiple process inside the container.
What do you mean the Docker can control just one process in the container?
The thing is, if you back to your container, yes, right, kill one. Kill with
Dash 9?
dash nine. Oh, because it's dash and it's produce itself. The thing is, let me tell you.
Because I don't
Each container
get-
has one, should have one process to be running.
Mhm.
And that process number is one.
Mhm.
And if you kill process number one, your container is restarting automatically.
Mhm.
Okay. This is why this is the nature of the Docker container. And Docker is monitoring just only process one resources for those limitations.
Maybe we can talk about it later.
Okay, sure.
I don't understand it.
Okay.
I guess that kind of means that inside the Docker container can be multiple process, but the resource that you are actually managing or setting from outside for that single process that you can see from outside.
Process 01,
Yeah.
process one, which is equal to the process number.
Yes, correct.
So you mean if
I think.
I think I'm not
if
sure.
I have another process in the container, I can see it from the host.
Yes, you can see all the process that you have in the container from the host.
Okay. So
Because the thing is, those processes are running in the host actually.
yes,
Just they have a shield which isolates those resources from the other resources,
namespaces.
namespaces.
So I don't really get. Okay, doesn't matter. We have a device read or write block per second. You can add device to your container directly. For example, you have a hard disk, you have a SSD or something, which is useful in such cases. And you can manage IOPS even. IO per second. You can manage belloc IO wait, which it doesn't matter. You can limit the PIDs, which means if you should take care about it. In such cases, you might have different connections or I don't know, services. For example, Nginx might need more than 20 PIDs. And
likely.
yeah, it's the limitation is really important from application to application. And yeah, that's it. Let's go for do some investigation on the container. If I run the Nginx, I want to see the time is okay. Yeah, I will finish this part and we will continue the Docker file in the next session.
Yeah, that also interesting. And everything actually.
Inspect this container, which is so what do we want to achieve is to see, we already seen it in the last two sessions, but you will see the ID of the container when it's created, all the things about the container itself. What is the command which is executed? What is the arguments, the state, the image you used, and we saw the path before. How the restore count, yeah, the driver, the if something mounted, the host configuration, network mode, anything about this container, you can find it here, and it's really useful. Sometimes you will see, depends on the Docker file, which port is published. Here, maybe we should. It's yeah, the ports. It's 80. It's publish network settings. The IP address of the container, the gateway. What else? Just this. So with the inspect, you can do that. With the stats, you can find out how much this container using resources, the CPU, memory, the I/O, block, and yeah, each PID. So the logs, of course, and with the top, you can see the process of the container. Which process are running inside the container without logging and do PS or those stuff. You can also remove it if you want. You can, what else? Pause. What does pause do with the container? If you pause the container, what happens?
Do you simply somehow disconnect it from the network layer just temporarily, or because I guess it's still running somehow the container, right?
It's running, yeah, it's paused. It will be disconnected, but this is different. When you do pause, it pauses the CPU, not everything. It doesn't deallocate the network, the memory, or those stuff. It just pauses the CPU. Your container is running there, but it's paused, and the CPU is paused. So you have the container. You can resume it. You didn't lose anything. But if you stop, you lose, for example, what is in the memory, the temporary file, or those stuff.
Maybe then a question about the container itself. So you pause the CPU, then theoretically, if you're inside the container and like you watch, for example, the log of the container, it just doesn't do anything, right?
Just release the CPU from the container.
But can you still run commands from the container?
You don't have
sure,
CPU.
because exactly, yeah. So it's a big
Yeah.
question, of course.
You can pause and you can unpause. You have diff, which could be important. With diff, you will see the difference between the container and the image itself, the files. Which files changed, which files added, or which files deleted. This is important from my side because sometimes with a glance you will see the problems there. A file should be there, but it's not.
A is added, C is
C
stands for what?
change.
Oh, change.
Yeah, it's changed.
So default.
Huh? Delete, yeah. Yes. If you want to see the port mapping, no. You should see it. Help, Docker port container, private port list port mapping or a specific mapping for the container. We don't have it, yeah. We don't have it. It's not there, so you don't see it. You can copy your files from container to your OS, your host, or from host to container with those commands. Just your container colon and path to the file. Yes, that's it. Because we are running out of time. If you have time for 5 minutes, I can show you the network side, connecting two container to same bridge. 5 minutes, okay. So I have Nginx with the name of God. No, with the name Nginx 1 dash D. And I have another one, Nginx 2. I want to just connect to Nginx 1. And ping Nginx 2. There's a ping. Shit. Let's do it without. There is already a name. Docker rn-f Nginx 1, Nginx 2. Okay, we have Alpine
Name and
with
one.
engine. To save the time.
Very good.
Oh, yes. We need, because it's Alpine, just run a bash. So when it's finished, it just come out from the container. We need to do point the slip. Already used. A slip isn't there. It's there, but okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
you can run one Nginx and one no. Yeah, and one Alpine and already bash it and then ping it.
Oh no, there isn't process. Okay. Shit. Let's do that because you should do that before the name of the image. Entry point. Finally, no. Asleep. Execute. Find out. Okay, there isn't any asleep. Why there isn't any sleep? It should be, huh? I can do that with Nginx. Naming. And as you said, attached to it.
Follow wins at the end.
Yeah, follow it. Nginx
Oh, yeah.
2.
Sure.
In Nginx 1. You can't ping it. Why? Because you are connected to
In breach mode, right?
bridge and the default bridge. And in the default bridge, you cannot ping each other with the host name. You should create a network in bridge, Docker network, create -- help. Yes. You can specify the bridge with -d or any driver you want. And name it.
Down the name, right? Because usage stuff and network create option and then network.
Network, yes.
Probably the name of the network.
Yeah, the name is on it. I'm looking for option. I might explain. Okay, the network could be and we have a. Let me just delete containers.
You too.
Yeah.
See you, man.
I wanted to discuss about the content. And yes, so how to connect to network with maybe dash network? Yes. I don't use that much
Yeah,
Can-
of course. No,
Docker. Definitely. And Nginx. Nginx 1. Oh, -d. It's -d. And then Nginx 2.
but we can, yeah.
-it. There might be a problem with the subcomp and these things. No, okay, this is good. So you can connect your container in the same. Yeah, you can attach. But it just doesn't matter. Yeah, just simply do that and it's fine. Okay, that's it. I really tried to do it fast.
Yeah, thanks. It was really nice.
Yeah, and yes, flan to you. The network we told you about, you can connect, yeah, Docker network, connect the network, for example, help to the container, to Alpine, to the Nginx 1, to Nginx 2, or anything, or disconnect any network, or inspect the network to see the IP, the gateway, to driver, if you want to see. Yeah, that's it.
If you disconnect, it goes automatically into the default breach. The Docker?
No, it will be disconnected.
Okay.
Totally, like a null.
Thanks. That was nice.
Thank you for your attention. That's it. I want to stop this.